capitulum tertium par secunda et tertia. Chapter 3, parts 2 and 3. Let's start with our initial prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. So what do we got on the list today? Well, Classis Proxima, where I answer a question we had last time. Verba Latina, Latin verbs. And we pick up the casus accusativus, the accusative case. We get some interrogative, more interrogatives, some conjunctions, conjuncciones, pronomia relativa. Now, we had the pronomia interrogativa earlier. Well, now we're getting what's known as the relative pronouns. And the two are very similar. So you kind of, once you've had this one, you almost get all of those for free. And then the oratio finalis. So we had a discussion on the stressed syllable of Angela. Okay. It really is on the front and then chilla. I've sort of went back and forth on the recording. Sometimes it sounds like the stress is a little more here than it is here. But I think part of that is you've got that following CI sound, ch. So it's hard to really nail the on and keep the chilla less pronounced. So, but no, that is the rule, is you look at the second to last syllable. So in this case, the sill, and if it's long, you put the stress there, such as angularum. And if it's not, you put it first. No, actually, Laura, that's one of the fun things about the Pius X. The reason, if you open up an older missal, or at least one that marks the stresses in the liturgy, you will find that they basically have the exact same rules. And apparently what they do is they, well, I'm not sure how they figure it out, because you're right, they're all long. Yeah, that you have to mark the stresses in the with using Pius X pronunciation, because otherwise you don't know the long or short vowels. And so I'm not sure how they figure it out. I've never figured it out how they figure it out. Maybe they hand it to some guy who's classical, who distinguishes long and short vowels, and he marks it. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Yeah, no, it will have, you won't see it in Gregorian chant, but you will see it in hand missals, or altar missals for that matter. So anyway, now the other interesting thing is the English word ancillary has its accent on the first. Yeah, I'd be curious what the that uses, yeah, I'd be curious to see what the Pius X. I'll try and look it up. I'm not as familiar with some of the details there. But anyway, ancillary has that accent on the first. So anyway, Latin verbs, much more useful. I don't know. Okay, Latin verbs, like English verbs, they have a lot of the same elements, have what's known as person, mood, and tense. So person is first, second, or third. Okay, and both singular or plural. So I, we, thou, you, he, she, it, they, both singular and plural. And English has that too. Not all, now English verbs are rather irregular in the sense that we pick them up through the centuries from various sources. So, but I run, thou runneth or runnest, he, she, it runs, we run, you run, they run. So you can see, there are different forms depending upon which first or second or third they are. Not as much as Latin. We'll see Latin that there's distinct versions for each of those. But on the other hand, the good news is they're all regular. So, if I hand you an unknown English verb, and this is particularly true about people who's learning English, is it's hard for them because they don't necessarily know how to conjugate it, because there's similar patterns across many of the verbs, but not the consistency that Latin has. Something called a mood. Okay, this one is probably the most alien to you guys, only because we don't talk about it much, but there are three of them. There is the indicative, the imperative, and the subjunctive. For now, we're just going to deal with this one. Well, actually, I think chapter 4, we deal with that one. I'll explain what that means in a minute. That's on the next chart. Tense, that's pretty clear. We have present, we have past, we have future. Both English and Latin have several of those different kinds. The good news is Latin verbs do not have gender, so you don't have to use one set of verbs if you're a male and another set of verbs if you're a female, and I don't know what you do if you're neither of those. Probably not going to be speaking Latin anyway. I don't know. Did I say perfect? Oops. There is supposed to be a comma there. There. For the want of a comma. Yeah, so I did. Now let's talk about some of those. Person, as I said, there's really no difference here. A person expresses who did the action. Did I do it? Did you do it? Did somebody else do it? Moods. Okay, now there's really no difference from English either here, or at least mostly. Mood expresses the manner in which the action is perceived by the speaker. Is it a fact? Like, I went to Mass on Sunday. I'm stating that as a fact. I could state, and that's known as the indicative, by the way. I could state it as a command, go to Mass on Sunday. And I could also express it as a possibility, like, let's go to Mass. That doesn't state that it's not a command, it's not a fact. So we'll talk about that one right later. And then, of course, tenses are when, past, present, or future. Okay, so there shouldn't be anything too hard, but we got to give names to certain things so that we can talk about them. So now the good news is we're going to start out really simple with just, and I should probably put a semicolon there. We're all going to be third person singular, he, she, or it. Present, all the action is now, and indicative in that it really happened. What this means is we're going to talk about other people and things, but one at a time. And the book is sort of getting your feet wet with them. If you thought there were a lot of endings for nouns, just wait till you see with verbs, because as I said, that verbs have person, moods, and tense. So so there's 6. So you got first, second, and third singular, first, second, and third plural. So there's 6 of those, and then you have the various moods, and then you have all the various tenses. So there's a lot of endings there. So don't
You're killing me, Larry.
Pardon?
You're killing me, Larry.
Yes, I know. I know. I figured you'd be overjoyed to hear this. So, but anyway, but seriously, that's what practice is for. You know, go back and read and read and read and listen and read and listen and read and listen. And hopefully it will slowly sink in. You know, I can teach it, but you're the one that's got to learn it. So, all right. So anyway, we saw our first action verbs in this chapter. And the reason I call them action verbs is we already had 2 verbs, est and sunt. Well, those are not action verbs. Those are just plain statements of fact. You know, Britannia insula est. Okay. There's no action going on there. These are verbs that have some type of action, motion, or whatever you want to call it. So we have cantat, or he, she, it sings. Pulsat, for he, she, it hits. Florat, for he, she, it cries out. Ridet, he, she, it laughs or smiles. You will, if you wanted a kind of a general translation of that, is this person reacts to something he, she, it finds funny. So it could be a smile, it could be a laugh. Latin tends to use, it tends to get a lot of use out of certain, use out of multiple meanings. Vidette, and let's make sure everybody understands that that is a short I. Okay, he, she, it sees. Vocat, he, she, it calls, and venit, he, she, it comes. So we see everything in this. Whoop, did I get rid of my T? Horrible. There we go.
Michael, was that venit or venit? You said venit.
Did I say venit?
Yes, you did.
Oh dear.
I think you said venit.
Did I say venit or venit? We have a vote.
I think you said venit.
Okay, I thought I said venit, but I fully admit that sometimes the brain is lagging behind the speech organ. And so anyway, it is
maybe I heard it. Yeah, okay.
Well, that's the other possibility, is you probably heard venit so often that I must have, oh, I do have 2 colons. Well, there we go.
Laura's taking over Alex's functions.
I appreciate it. Yes, I appreciate it. I tend to read, you know, I've had to do new charts because this is the Familia Romana versus the primer of Collins. But when I teach this in the future, I'm sure I will recycle these charts. So you're helping any future Latin students and me. So anyway, they all end in T. And this is a very nice, let's see, hold on. Whoops, getting ahead of myself. This is true for all third person singular verbs that are the indicative present, the indicative imperfect, the indicative future, the indicative perfect, and the indicative pluperfect, and the future perfect. So the nice thing is, if you see a verb that ends in T, and I do mean T, vowel and T, not NT, because then it's plural. So you know that it's a he, she, or it that is going on. What you're going to see later on is it's that vowel in front that changes. but but that's in the future, that's later. For the moment, we're all third person singular. Now, one other thing I want to mention, in Latin, the verb can be understood as what's known as simple present or present continuing. They're the same thing in Latin, okay? So cantat can be he, she, it sings, or he, she, it is singing, okay? There's zero difference in Latin. There is a slight difference in English in that he sings does not necessarily imply that he is singing at the moment. It's a general statement. So he is singing says that indeed right now at this very moment, this person is singing. So this is true of all the verbs. So so when you translate if you ever do any translation, and you're not supposed to, by the way, you should be able to read the Latin straight up. But if you need to do translation, think about which makes better sense in English, because you will not see a distinguishing or any distinction between the two in Latin. Any questions so far? All right, good. So, as I said, they all end in T, third person singular. English third persons generally end in S, third person singular, that is, runs, sings, hits, cries, laughs, sees, calls, comes. So, really all you've done is, we use a T, Latin uses a T, English uses an S. So not a big deal. As I said, unfortunately, we have different endings for each person, mood, and tense. So you will have no end of fun recognizing some of these. But
So Michael, are you saying, just excuse me, when you say they have different endings for each person, so it'd be different for the masculine versus and different for the feminine?
No. Person being first, second, or third person.
Oh, okay. So then
Yeah,
the gender doesn't matter.
Yeah, let me clarify that. No. I said it earlier. Oh dear, what do we want to do? First, second, and second and third. There you go. And let me let's see, shift. I gotta remember how to change that. Let's see here. Baseline is shift. Yeah, okay. So shift. Let's see, no. Oops.
First, second, third person.
All right, where is that? I thought I had the control. All right, is control command. Oh, there we go. That is an awkward key equivalent. There. No. For example, let's take cantat. Oh, really, Gary? Where are you? Well, okay. Houston area covers 10,000 square miles.
Longview.
Houston area.
Longview.
Pardon?
Longview.
Oh, Longview.
Longview up by Tyler.
Okay. Yeah, the Houston area is 10,000 square miles. That's roughly the state of Connecticut or the state of Massachusetts, way larger than the state of Rhode Island. So, anyway, so cantat is he, she, or it sings. If I wanted to say I sing, it would be canto. You singular is cantas. We sing is cantamus. If you remember the Gloria, laudemus, glorificemus, benedicimus, sorry, laudamus. So there's a moose ending in there, or actually mus, it's not moose, mus. Cantatus is y'all sing, and cantant is they sing. But the good news is you'll find that that last consonant or last two consonants, or well, that last ending is pretty much the same across the various tenses. We fiddle with usually the vowel there or the syllable, so it's not too bad. But that's what I mean. Canto, cantas, cantat for first, second, and third oral. Now, you'll find that eventually as we build out, for example, est, we already learned about est, and it has a T in the ending, and notice the T's are there. When we hit sunt, when we do plural, you'll see that there's an NT in here. So you'll see that it builds on. And eventually I will explain this mysterious phrase down here, ostmustissent. Those are the endings of all of the Latin verbs. So, or the final ending of the Latin verbs. So eventually we'll learn about it. But for now, all you need is T. So let's not get too excited about it. Let's see. Oh, okay. Now, when we hit chapter 4, yeah, salve, Alex. When we hit chapter 4, you're going to find that there are 4 classes of verbs or conjugations. The reason they call it a well, just like declensions, where you decline the noun the same way in that particular declension, you're going to find that verbs have the same thing, but it's not a declension, it's a conjugation. And you'll find that there's 4 of them. They all have the same T ending for the indicative. The conjugations are divided by the vowel before the ending, okay? So you're going to see a first conjugation that has an A in there. So it has cantat, pulsat, plorat. You're going to see one that has a long E. Well, that's a long E, but ridet and videt, we use the short E. Third conjugation, they don't have any of those. A little more complicated, and we'll get to them later. And then the fourth conjugation is venit. How do you tell the difference between second and third conjugation verbs, especially since most texts do not include macrons? Okay, let's take videt for a moment. He, she, it sees. If I were going to say I see, it would be video. Thou seest would be vides. And he, she, it sees is videt. So there's an E in there, short E in all. Except for the video, the E is long. If we take a third conjugation verb, usually I use rego, which is reign, to rule. So it would be rego, regis, regit. So what you would actually see is this E is not an E, it is actually an I. So it's actually not that hard to distinguish the two. I almost hate to answer that question because it's getting kind of ahead of us, but it's the form itself of the verb. It'll be very clear.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about distracting
Oh,
everybody.
that's all right. That's all right.
Michael,
Yes.
on second conjugation, did you mean that to be VIDET, not RIDET?
Ask that again. What did
Where you list second conjugation for videre, did you mean to say? You've got RIDET.
Yeah.
Okay, I
means
don't,
to smile or laugh.
oh, okay, I thought you were trying to take the same verb.
Oh,
Okay,
no, I was taking the second one, vidette.
Okay, okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I mean, because it's a common, you'll see it more often than you will to smile or to laugh. It also, by the way, redette or redere, which is the infinitive form, it can mean to laugh, to smile. It can also mean ridicule. So you will see it in the Psalms when so-and-so is ridiculing the just man for, being upright. But anyway, vidette is,
Michael, is there a reason why you're listing this in the third person singular rather than in the infinitive?
yes,
Okay,
because in chapter 3, that's all you have is third person.
okay, you're trying to limit it to what's.
Yeah, I'm
covered.
trying to limit. Yeah, I don't want to dump the entire set of verb conjugations on
Yeah,
everybody.
because
If I do, poor Michael's brain will explode and it'll make a horrible mess.
Thank you.
well, but since it's a narrative that necessitates a third person singular.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
for the most part,
At the present. Yeah.
right.
So let's see. Let's see. Let me see with the next one. Oh, okay. So are there any questions so far on verba latina? Okay. All right. So now that we have action verbs, we also get to use one more of the cases for the nouns, the accusative, accusativus. So for action verbs, i.e. something is going on, the subject, we'll call him the doer, or the he, is in the nominative, always. The direct object, or the doee, i.e. to whom the action is being done, is in the accusative, and I say if any. Obviously, I can say cantat, he sings. So there is no direct object, but if I were to put something in there, it would be the recipient of the object. Obviously, sorry, I have the examples even better one. Marcus pulsat, Marcus hits, or Marcus punches or strikes. That doesn't need a direct object. But if I say Marcus Juliam pulsat, then I put the direct object in there, and that is Marcus hits Julia. And that's nominative, and that is accusative, okay? So, lots of examples. Marcus videt, Marcus sees. Marcus videt quintum, Marcus sees Quintus. Julia vocat, Aemiliam Julia vocat. Julia calls Amelia. Does not matter what order things are, okay? It is the endings, okay? And in fact, recall Latin's flexible word order, because the doer is always in the nominative and the doee is always in the accusative. So we can have Julia vocat Aemiliam, Julia Aemiliam vocat, Aemiliam Juliam, sorry, got carried away. Aemiliam Julia vocat, Aemiliam vocat Julia Aemiliam, or vocat Aemiliam Julia. They all mean the same thing. You could say Julia calls Amelia, or Julia is calling. As I said, maybe I should change these to calls / is calling. Let me go ahead and throw those in there so that you get the, there we go. You pick up both the present and something that's called the, the continuing present. There we go. Those all mean the same thing. So if you don't know your case endings, you're going to have a heck of a time figuring things out. Now, I will say Julia Aemilium Vocat and Julia Vocat Aemilium are probably this is probably the most common order for words in Latin. This is probably the second one. These others are a bit odd, but they are not outside the rules of Latin grammar. Typically what the Latins did is they put the important word first. So if you were to say in English, Julia is calling Amelia, the emphasis there presumably is on Julia, and we don't do it tonally. And then, or you could say in English, Julia is calling Amelia. So there we emphasize it by voice, but Julia Vocat or Julia Aemilium Vocat, we're kind of emphasizing Julia. And if you put Aemilium Julia Vocat, then you're emphasizing Amelia there. So hopefully over time, as you read more, you'll kind of get a feel for that. But again, do keep in mind that word order is flexible. And so sadly, all that wonderful declension table that I gave you, you're going to see me saying that a lot, okay? And we do have our table. This is we had for last time. The new ones is the accusative here. We've had the nominative and the genitive, meaning the subject, the possessive. Let's see, darn, I can't think of any of the possessive phrases we've had. And I've also included the plural. We haven't had as many of the plural, but you might as well do both at the same time. So what we have not yet had really is the dative and the vocative. I believe the vocative is in chapter 4, and I don't recall where the dative is. But we'll eventually, get them. And so start memorizing them. I realize that's a lot, but keep in mind that masculine nouns of US or ER or IR, or I should say masculine nouns of the second declension, possessive, singular, all end in I. So there's a lot of commonalities across these rows. So it's not as bad as it might think. So any questions there? Interrogativa. Sorry, interrogativa. Try that again. Interrogativa. Short O, long A. Okay, we've had quis and que. Quis and que. Quis est Marcus? Who is Marcus? We had quid, what? Quid est Britannia? What is Britannia? Oops. No question mark. Shame on me. Ubi est Britannia. Where is Britannia? Okay. Oops. And that got there. Nudge that over there. And we had cujus, as in whose. Cujus liber est. Whose book is this? We've had quat, how many? Quat filii sunt, how many sons are there? So we get to add, whoops, oh, there's Allison. We get to add y, cur. Now, there's a famous work, Cur Deus Homo. And I think this is where the ecclesiastical pronunciation that distinguishes between long and short vowels is especially useful here. So cur Deus homo literally is why the God man, why God man. Better way of phrasing it, perhaps, in a more understandable sense, is why did God become man? That was written by Anselm of Canterbury in the towards the end of the 10th century there. So sorry, 1000s. So cur and quia are the singular and plural. Sorry. Singular, cur, quia, meaning because, sorry, is what I meant to say. So cur Julia plorat, why is Julia crying? Quia Marcus eam pulsat, because Marcus hit her. So cur is why and quia is because. Everybody got that?
Quick question that's kind of tangential. So quia Marcus eam pulsat means because Marcus hit her. Is pulsat the same in the past as in the present? Because if it's in the present, then that would be because Marcus is hitting her or because Marcus hits her, which doesn't make sense in the context of the story.
Yeah, okay. If you really, okay, this is because Marcus is hitting her. So there, now we can make it present. No, if it were past tense, I believe it would be pulsavit, if I remember correctly. So really, quia Marcus eam pulsat, because Marcus is hitting her. So maybe if we wanted to make it really good English, we could say, why is Julia crying? Because Marcus is hitting her. So now we can put it all in present. Does that work for you?
Yeah, make it all one sentence.
Thank you.
Yeah, use the question mark as like a comma, right?
Yeah.
In English, I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, if you used it a comma just there in English, it would be why is Julia crying because Marcus is hitting her? That's just a run-on
it wouldn't
sentence in
make
a
any
comma's
sense
place.
in English that way, but I understand what he's trying to get at. Okay, let's see what's next. I think that's, okay. Any questions? Cooler should be pretty easy. You know, why? There are actually, by the way, a couple of other words that Latin uses for why, but cooler will work now for the moment. And it means as in for what reason, okay, would be another way to translate it. Okay, we had a number of conjunctions. We had et, and. We had said, and which is but. And then we had the -QUE ending, which meant and. But what if we want not and or but not? We do not say et non or sed non, but rather we have a new word, neque, and you can kind of see that the ne from non or known, known, longo. So you can kind of see how you take a known and you add a que and you end up with a neque. So examples, neque and not or but not. Julius dormit neque quinium, sorry. Yeah, you know what? Let's put a T in there. There we go. Quintum audit. Julius is sleeping or Julius sleeps and not here. And well, we probably put in a does here. Okay. to make that really sensible English. But, or Julius dormit neque Emilia. Julius is sleeping, but not Amelia. That probably makes a little more sense, okay? Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So we get some pronouns now in the accusative. Actually, we only get them in the accusative. We get me, thee, him, and her. So, how do you distinguish? We'll get to that in a future chapter. I don't even want to begin to untangle that one. Yeah, Alex. Yeah, we saw that in the primer.
But they both do mean because, but they're
Yes.
just used in different.
Yeah,
different
and I'll tell you why, or one reason is, let's see here, where did I put it? Because, oh, then wait, no, I'm sorry, quad. Why? Well, we'll see why later. Let's just,
Okay.
let's go back to the pronouns. So for me, real easy to remember it, me, okay? No, we haven't gotten to quad yet. I don't think so. We have me. So that is accusativus, persona prima, singularis, both masculinus et femininus, okay? The, te, if you want you, plural, that's a different one, but singular, second person. Accusativus, persona secunda, singularis, masculinus et femininus, okay? Him, eum, accusativus, persona tertia, singularis, masculinus, okay? For me et te, masculinus vel femininus. Sed him, eum, masculinus. Her, eam, femininus. So just like English, where we really don't distinguish gender between me and thee, him and her, on the other hand, are eum and eam. Make sense? All right, so examples. Quis me vocat? Who calls me? Julia te vocat. Julia calls you. Marcus pulsat eam. Marcus hit her. Quintus eam pulsat. Quintus hits him. Sorry, these are all presents. So, so who is calling me? Julia is calling you. Marcus is hitting her. Quintus is hitting him. Maybe that's the safer way to render those in English. So, any questions there? Okay. Pronomina, let's see, pronomina relativa. Relative pronouns. Now, relative pronouns are not pronouns you use for your relatives, okay? A pronoun, it's just a, and sometimes some of us don't use pronouns for our relatives, but that's a
So
story.
relatives, more relative meaning they point to something.
Yes. It means it's a pronoun that refers to another noun in the clause. So it works the same way. Pronoun, really, I should let me reorder this in a clause that refers to another noun. So the boy who hit the little girl is naughty. Okay. So who refers to boy. Okay. Doesn't refer to the girl, it refers to the boy. Typically, a relative pronoun follows immediately after the noun. Okay. In Latin, it would be puer, qui parvum puellam pulsat improbus est. Improbus est, short O. So the boy who hit or is hitting there. How about we do it this way? How about an extra T? There, that's better. The boy who is hitting the little girl is naughty. So puer qui parvum puellam pusat improbus est. So nothing too complicated there. English uses the same words for relative and interrogative pronouns. So here we have who, or if we say who is hitting the girl, we would say, well, we say who, whereas in Latin, if we say who is hitting the girl, we would say quis parvum puellam pulsat. So for the questions, it's quis and que for the interrogatives. The bottom qui, so I am. Thank you. There. This is the interrogative. This is the relative. Okay. Most of the ones are, for most of them, they're the same thing. Okay, but not quite all of them. And right now, all you get is qui and que in the book. So we'll add some more in as time goes on. Oh, actually, I already did. Never mind. Okay. Here are the interrogative ones. We've had que, quid. Oh, I didn't mark the shame on me. Do me that in real time. All right. And in Latin, if you say quid, you're not asking for somebody for a fiver from in Britain. Whoop, hold on. I think I got them all. Oh, missed this one. Yeah, now I got them. So you can see they're largely the same, but not 100% the same. So quis est Marcus? Oh, wow. I must have, well, that's true. I don't normally mark the short ones, but I like to mark it on this one. Quis est Marcus? Marcus est puer qui pulsat Juliam. Marcus is the boy who is hitting Julia. Quis est Julia? Julia est puella parva quem Marcus pulsat. So why qui and why quem? And I'll ask Michael, because I'm a mean, rotten teacher.
What are you asking me?
I'm asking you, why do we put qui here? And why do we put quem there?
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Marcus is the boy, because qui is referring to Marcus, the subject.
Right.
So that would be the nominative.
Right.
And then quem would be the accusative, saying that Julia is the girl being hit.
Oh,
by Marcus.
perfect.
Did I get it?
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
Okay, I hate to say this, but I said it, but it just rambled out of my brain. I have no idea.
Well, you should perhaps listen to yourself rambling more often.
I know, absolutely.
No, that is exactly right. Is in English, we don't change forms. We don't have endings. So in English, we would say Marcus is the boy who is hitting Julia or Julia. And Julia is the little girl. Oh, actually, we do change it, don't we? We go from who to
Well, it's the accusative being hit by.
yeah, we would say whom, wouldn't we? whom Marcus is hitting. Is that right? Well, let's see now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, that's
Whom,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
I know in the dative you use whom. You give it
And-
to whom.
Yeah,
See, that's
that's
the other
much
fun thing with English is you never know. which-
clearer in dative than it is in the accusative.
Yeah. Actually, I take that back. Either one works. I think I've seen both, but now that you mention it, Alex, I really think it is who. Julia is the little girl who Marcus is hitting
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
see
right.
that, you see the who much more often
Then
in
the
the
who.
direct object,
Yeah,
where you see the indirect object is the whom.
yeah.
Hey, Michael, in the accusative, it's whom, what would it be in the next one? I can't think of the word now. What we were just talking about.
Oh, you know what?
Another accusative.
You talk about the dative?
Maybe, yeah, that's it, the dative. Would it be spelled the same? Quem?
Oh, in the
Yeah.
dative? No, no. It's it's um
I hate to jump forward, but.
it's kui.
just curious.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kui.
And that would be whose, right?
Pardon?
That would translate by.
Actually, yeah, no, actually
whose.
it's CUI.
Yeah, okay. See.
Interesting. Yeah, well, okay. Interestingly enough. Oh, let me pop this up here for a moment. There we go. There. Hopefully that's visible. Yeah, for reasons that are somewhat mystifying. Well, actually, it's pronounced the same way. Kui with a C. Well, okay.
A Q with a Q.
Yeah, well, that's
Oh.
qui because the QU is a qui sound. So qui, I don't know how you would put an ui on the end of a qui there. So Latin, by and large, is a very melodic language.
Right.
And so it will change certain words in order to keep a nice melody or pronunciation. So we have this in kui and cuyus, okay? So you can't, the QU is always a qui sound. It's never anything else. Qui, que, quad, qua, quem, quam, quad, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or quorum, quadrum down here, quibus. So in order to kind of make the right kind of data, you're going to see later on that a lot of dative nouns end in an I, so that by changing the spelling, they preserve the ending pattern and you can actually end up pronouncing it. At least that's what I speculate is the thing. And yeah, this is a different quad. Okay, that's why I don't want to talk about quia and or quia and quad. I'm going to say, is there one spelling? Oh, okay. Cuius versus with an I versus cuius with a J. Which one is more correct? Yes. What do I mean by that? Okay. A lot of the consonant I's, as it's called. For example, justice, justitia, with an I. In classical Latin, there was no J, but they pronounced it as a kind of a Y sound. Eventually, and I believe it was the 13th century, Italian humanists began to distinguish between the vowel I and the consonant I. And so they began writing it with a J, and that's why I and J follow each other in the alphabet, by the way. That's how they got it in there. And that eventually caught on in the church later on. So, for example, Oh, boy. I'm trying to think of, oh, okay. So you will sometimes see Joseph in Latin as Joseph, and you may see it with an I, or you may see it with a J. They are really interchangeable, okay? We're sticking
Same
with,
thing with Jesus, right?
oh, good grief. How could I forget that one? Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
I shall have to wear put on
Mea
sackcloth.
culpa, mea
ashes
culpa,
after
mea
this.
maxima culpa, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, like Jesus is with a I or a J. You will generally see in the Familia Romana, they will use the I over the J. Okay. In older hand missiles, you will almost invariably see the J instead of the I. And there are people who have come to almost blows over which one is the more correct. And the answer is they both are. And if you look in the current Latin Mass or the current Nova Vulgata, they prefer the classical spelling with the I over the late medieval J. So if you had to make a case for one or the other, you could say, well, I was used far more centuries than J, but you know, that's also like Chelum with an AE and Chelum with an OI. You may have seen Regina Caeli with an OE. The parish, I believe, spells it with an OE, and you may have seen Regina Caeli with an AE. They are pronounced the same. It's much the same sort of thing. Has to do with well, sort of the same thing. Anyway, so either one. Pardon?
On the feminine nominative, you have que and qua.
Yeah, I realized I need to put a quam there. Whoops, wait, up here. That needs to be, oh wait, interrogative. Let me get this. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, those both need to be quam. And somehow I managed to turn Julia into, this is what happens when you type and you don't think, yeah, they should be quams. I was going to try and sneak that one by.
Okay, that should be qua.
Yeah, quam, and quam. Yeah, because the accusative forms for the, now this is qui, and if we go up here to quis, we will find that it is the same here. So really, these guys are the ones that are the troublemakers. All right, let's get back to this and let's see this and this. Oops, there we go. All right. All right. So anyway, we are, oh, well, we're almost done. So any questions on any of that? Okay, good. Now, I'm going to add something that you probably ought to do. We have the audio and we have the text. And by the way, the thing to do is read along with the text and listen to the audio, because that reinforces the pronunciation and the grammar. But eventually what you really ought to do is go to the next one. Whoops, I timed out. Okay, everybody's going to see my password. There we go. Dot, 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 dot. whoops, okay. Sometimes it times out rather oddly. Okay. Where was I? Okay, so let's do this one. That's where we
Yeah.
were, right? Whoop, go previous. There we go. So as I was saying, so you want to listen and read along to pick up the pronunciation. Also, it helps to pick up the understanding. But eventually you should go to this one that doesn't have the text and listen.
Mhm.
Because now you have to focus.
Scena seconda. Persone. Emilia, Julia, Marcus, Quintus.
Okay,
Mhm.
what does that mean? What did he just say?
Talking about a new scene, and he's talking who's present in the scene, the three
Right.
characters.
Yes, exactly. And then he goes on.
Emilia interrogat.
Quis me vocat?
So.
Amelia asked who called me.
Right, right. So do work on that. That will help you. That will help you in the long run, because it forces you to, one of the dangers of sticking. Well, yeah, ear training, exactly.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. One of the dangers in sticking with the text is, I don't know about you guys, but certainly for me, if I'm reading the text, while I'm listening to the audio, how should I put this? My input really is through the eyes. I'm really using my eyes to absorb the Latin.
Mhm.
And the audio there is just sort of correct my pronunciation. Okay. For example, I tend to say quis as quis, and that's Pius X, the ghost of Pius X coming back to haunt me, because we often sing it as quis, and which is okay, but correct pronunciation is quis in our accent, if you wish. So, in reading it, the words there are primary and the audio is secondary. So you really need to then switch to the audio and hide the text, and that will help you in the liturgy, because you may or may not have a hand missile that has, what is currently being said. So now, one thing, YouTube is great on this, because YouTube has a speed function. You can speed it up or slow it down. Sadly, the Familia Romana does not. I have asked them to put it in, and they said it was a great idea and it will be in the next edition. I have no idea when the next edition is coming out. It could be next week, next year, next decade. Hopefully not next decade or next century. So you can find the Familia Romana in YouTube. It's a little tough. You can, and you
There's
can.
a bald-headed guy that does it.
Yeah, and you can play with the speed. I think so. Oh, no. Okay. The bald-headed guy. That is
It's slurred Latin, but he's reading from
that's Ranieri, Lucas Ranieri. Okay. Lucas Ranieri is a great Latinist. In fact, he's way up there. I wish I was as good as he was for some of his stuff. But he is classical, so he will be reading it in a classical accent, okay?
Mhm.
So you have to look at the Familia Romana ecclesiastical pronunciation. Okay.
Mhm.
And you may get Pius X, or you may get this, or you can listen to the classical. By the way, there's nothing bad about that. But there is a slightly different pronunciation. In fact, it's not bad to listen to all three, just to kind of be exposed to it. But if you can find, I'll hunt for the ecclesiastical pronunciation for the Familia Romana, and maybe send some links out. But the nice thing about YouTube is you can slow it down. And you're right, some of them are a bit like the last gospel. On your mark, get set, go. Can you read the last gospel in 15 seconds or less, type thing.
Well, today's was,
Pardon?
I say today's was short and sweet.
Uh,
Gospel.
No, I'm talking about the in Pritio, the first. Okay, the last gospel in the extraordinary form is the first chapter in John. In principio erat verbum et verbum erat Deum. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. I'm probably mangling the order there. I apologize. That's really the one I'm referring to. Traditionally, priests tended to zip through those pretty quickly, because technically they've already said the Mass is ended, go in peace. And then they have this piece to, recite. And there's actually a good reason for it. It came out of the 11th century, and I don't want to get all involved in history there for that, but it's usually said pretty quickly. But as I said, dig up some of the Familia Romana episodes in YouTube and slow it down, and that'll help. Okay, I think that's about all I have. Oh, no, not quite. Next time, I believe we have not done part 3 yet. Is that right? We've done parts 1 and 2.
Right.
If I remember correctly. So do part 3, which is, yeah, here we go. There we go. Part 3. And this has, well, the father shows up, Pater Venit, and we know how that works. And then up to exercises, I believe it's 9, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Exercise 9. Come on.
Where's the starting point on that?
On what, 3?
No, the exercise, which is the,
Okay. I believe it was, hold on, where are we here? Yeah, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
okay.
So 6 through 9. Yeah. And it again, what we're looking for here is graded answers on submit. So we are looking for 1-word answers, and they're all pretty good because it's quis Juliam pulsat, who is hitting Julia. Marcus Juliam pulsat, Marcus is hitting Julia. Marcum videt. Quis Marcum videt, who sees Marcus. Quem Quintus pulsat. So that's going to be a quem. Who is Quintus hitting? And in this case, we know that it's masculine. So we will see a quem. Let's see, do they have they don't have any qualms. Okay, well. So, whoop, I think my mouse froze. Yoo-hoo, mouse, come back. That's weird. All right, any questions? Or did my whole computer go belly up? Uh-oh.
Well, I don't think the whole computer did because we still hear you.
Okay, this is kind of weird. Let me,
It just looks like the bottom of your browser window is glitching.
yeah, let me do something here. Let's do, well, there we go. All right, I can do it manually. Let's see here. Maybe manually. Maybe not. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Help, help. Oh, well, I don't know what the, come on. My mouse has vanished. Oh, well, anyway. Give me a moment here and let's try something here. Interesting. Oh, well, I guess we'll just have to live without a mouse for a while. Anyway, let's finish up with the final prayer. I will, oh, I can't even mute can I mute everybody?
Yeah, I'm here.
Let's see, what is mute? Yeah, if you guys can mute yourselves, because otherwise we'll have a rather messy. You'll find out about transport lag. Yeah. All right. Anyway, in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen.
Amen.
So, all right.